Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Sound in the form of music is a powerful expression. I grew up with music in my life every day, and I've studied its effect on consciousness, and I've used music and trained using music as a therapeutic modality. One of my favorite quotes is from Aldous Huxley: "After silence, that which comes nearest to expressing the inexpressible is music." And then it turns out when I looked at Kaliyani's website today, I found the same quote. So, no accidents. I'm delighted to bring you my guest today, who I have a feeling will inspire you in some unexpected ways. So stay with us. Welcome. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Quantum Connection process. Go there to discover your unique connection with the essence of who you are by taking the Quantum Connection quiz. We are each designed to connect with Source in our own unique way, differently. And knowing your own style helps to open a deeper connection for you with the universe. It's the secret to creating what you truly want in your life, because who you are is exactly who is needed. My guest today is Kaliyani, who is a spiritually inspired visionary. As a producer, artist, and founder of Stargate Alliance Films Media, she is inspiring people through offering alternative visions, information, and empowering tools for self, as well as for global soul transformation. It is Kaliyani's dream to offer herself as an instrument for the betterment of humanity and the uplifting of consciousness on the planet. She says that her deep, heartfelt connection with Source is the driving force and fuel in everything she co-creates and assists in bringing forth. She is the creator of One Earth, a single and music video as a call for human connection and oneness to heal the earth. Welcome, Kaliyani, to Wisdom Talk Radio. I'm very happy that you're here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Laurie. It's a pleasure.
So, boy, I could start in so many different places, as we were just talking about. And I, just to give us a little kind of maybe commonality or understanding of a little more about who you are beyond, your details. I don't know when it was, you just told me and I forgot that quickly, when you took on the name of Kaliyani, but what does it mean? It's a beautiful name.
That name came to me in meditation. It sounds corny, but it's true. I was meditating a lot at the time, and I felt like this music container needed to be separate from everything else, all the other jobs I have, like the muse, right? So I had been calling that in for a while, and it came in meditation. I had never heard. So I was in the garden and I rushed back inside and I went, first thing I did, I said, what is this? Because I loved how it felt, how it sounded. And I searched, and it has so many meanings. It's a type of Indian song. It's also associated with, I think, goddess Lakshmi, and it means auspicious, the one who brings the gifts. It means beautiful. It's like, there's a city called Kaliyani. There's a raga in India, which is played usually for weddings. It's a type of song that only is played for marriages, and during marriages. So it's quite powerful. It's just, I was like, great, this is it.
So here's something that just is coming to me is like, with a name that powerful, how have you lived into it?
Oh, I didn't think much of it. I just said spirit dropped it in. It's
Mhm.
probably what's it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And because of what had just come through around that time, actually,
Mhm.
it may have been, yeah, right after I recorded The Muslim Vacation. So, and The Muslim Vacation is quite the piece. If you watched my first release, that's why I feel like it was bigger than me, and it was not by me, it was through me.
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt honored, and I felt touched by grace by being chosen to receive something such as that.
Yes.
So it was not my desire to become a singer, but when that came through, because I was conceptualizing a documentary on the sacred feminine, and
Ah,
I music needed to be powerful. So the story goes, I had a couple of weeks off, the kids were gone, and I went into this deep search. How could I ever create a documentary about sacred feminine in the sense that I feel her? Right?
mhm.
I was so, because of my past history, so we're going backwards. So
That's
uh,
okay.
my awakening to the divine feminine, which happened in 2003 approximately, at the dissolution of my marriage, and through a process of deep prayer and communion with spirit, I started seeing this goddess, this
Mhm.
deity, however you want to refer to it. And I didn't know who she was. I know she was Asian, and she appeared in dreams, and I had a lot of synchronicities. It would be a lot to just go through it, but basically, eventually, in a beautiful way, I'm writing a book. So hopefully when that gets out, the details will be there. Um, she came to me, and it was Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, which
Mhm.
you may be very familiar with. She's
Yes,
very
very much so.
revered in Asia. And where was I? I'm a little.
Living into your name, how the music came, and that whole opening for you.
Oh yeah, so that burning fire inside of me was wanting to give her a voice.
Mhm.
Literally, I felt like in some way I became the mother to the mother, which is a very strange thing to say, but I received that like as you know, I had a training with the 13 Moon Mystery School. I became a facilitator for
Mhm.
sacred circles on the 13 archetypes of the divine feminine. And, in that process, I realized I was a midwife. I was becoming a midwife to the sacred feminine. That's why when you read my social media, it says midwife to the sacred feminine. So I'm rebirthing her conscious awareness in every work I do. So
Mhm.
that's the main calling per se. You
Okay,
see?
then so that kind of underpins or holds everything else in its container.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, you also talk about those earlier works as being direct heart tones. They're not lyrics, but they're sounds, and you call them immanence, uh, um, a direct download into the heart and soul from the divine.
Mhm.
What does that mean for you?
Uh, I feel it is when we become empty and filled with love and passion for something bigger than us, that we can offer as a gift, and we allow immanence, as Aurobindo defined, is the coming down of the divine. It's the reverse of transcending, and I find
Mhm.
that extremely important to be aware of, because transcendence became such a trendy thing. We got to transcend the earth. We got to transcend humanity. I feel like we have.
Transcending the ego, all of that. Yeah.
Truth is, we're here for a reason. You have to bring the divine down into this manifestation of reality. People tend to separate a lot. They separate earth from heaven. Well, when I was 8.5, here's an interesting story. I had an out-of-body experience where I came back from school, and I was a very super active child. And at that time, I just, I actually climbed on my bunk bed in the middle of the afternoon and looked into the ceiling, and I was transported into the cosmos, and I was actually taken out, and I could see the earth and all the earth transformation. And I had this question in my mind, or in the recesses of whatever my mind was at that point: show me before. I want to see how the world was before all of this. And I kept traveling backwards, and then I saw the planets, and I kept saying, show me before. And then the planets started to pop, like disappear. And then I was seeing galaxies, and then the galaxies started to, just as a child, I just thought I was in the sky with the middle of the stars, and it was dark, and all the stars started to disappear, and I found myself in the void. And from that point, I said, this must be where God is, because I was extremely aware of God, because I prayed a lot. My mother taught us to pray. We didn't go to church or anywhere, but she thought the power of prayer is important. She sat by our bed every night, and we prayed like 4 or 5 different prayers every day. And I carried that through my life, So I found myself there, and I said, this must be where God is. And I felt this sense of peace, and I wasn't scared. It was pitch black. It was nothing. And then I thought to myself, well, what was there before God? Is there anything before God? Can you show me? And at that point, because I was innocent, I didn't have imprints of what I should say, not say. I was just curious. Is there something ever before God? Can you show it to me? And that moment, I came back with a crash into my body. And I sat up in bed, and my heart was pounding. And, I looked around, and couldn't remember anything. I lost all sense of identity. I didn't know who I was, where I was, what that was. My bed, my bedroom, my door. It was a complete erasure of my mind. I didn't remember my mother, my grandmother, my sister. No.
So you were really in the void, in physical reality. Yeah.
And it's subject to interpretation, what that meant. Why, when I asked, was there anything before God, that happened? And I've had many inner discoveries with that. And I do feel it is because I was terrified, I heard some yogis and Indian gurus like Babaji had a similar experience. And people say, oh, it's beautiful. You sense oneness. I felt the oneness when I was in the void, but when I came back down, it loss of identity, that was not peaceful. That was scary. Terrified. And I just found I don't know. I sat there for as long as I can't remember. I was so young. But eventually I found my way down, walked out, and went to the street, and I ran. I just ran because I knew there was something wrong, because I said my heart was void, empty. I had no sense of belonging. I was somewhere I did not recognize. I didn't know who I was, what I was. There was no sense of connection to anything. So God is to me that which gives us connection, belonging. See, that was the answer. What was there before God? There was this. Nothing. You're nothing. You can't feel anything. You don't belong anywhere. You don't have a sense of connection with anything. Your heart's empty. There's no love. There was this, I was anxious because I knew something was missing in a big way. So as I started to run, it's almost like I was grounding myself. I started skipping and hopping. I was desperately trying to remember something.
Yeah.
And slowly it started to come to me, and it was like, like I entered paradise, literally. Just to remember my mom and my grandma, my name and everybody's name. And oh yes, oh yeah, oh yes. Then I started to walk home, and I said, oh my God, I can never tell this to anyone. They would think I'm absolutely, I thought I lost my mind. And I was terrified. And I said, I'm never going to share this with anyone. So I kind of repressed that memory a lot. And after the second year of USM, a lot of these started to come back. I was actually writing a book. I haven't published it. It's called Jewel in the Mud. And it was my thesis for my second year of master's program. And actually, it was the 28th year of USM. And they had never allowed anybody to write a book during the second year, not a book like that, which was a reframing of reality about my life, using all of the most poignant crises and events in my life as a bouncing board, and to look at it from a place of a gift instead of a torture or suffering.
Well, and it sounds like you have been able to claim it as the gift that it was. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. You mean the name?
No, the experience.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It took a while, but everything is very clear now.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to go into that experience of what connection means for you, because that is profound in and of itself. But for me personally, it's something that has a lot of meaning, and that coming through the void for me has a lot to do with the creative process in general. That my experience has been, and I've seen it in client after client after client, but certainly within myself, that when there's that sense of something completing, at 8.5, that's not where you were, but in normal life, we often enter that place of the void where we feel like, I don't know who I am. Like, I'll wake up one day and I know that everything in me has changed, so I don't have anything that I recognize. And people's tendency in that time is to want to like hold on to structure or fill it with, oh, I know I must be getting sick, or it must be this, or it must be that. And then they miss out on what really could arise from that, from going through the void, from hanging out in it till something emerges. And I'm imagining, and please tell me if this is true or not, that that whole experience has made it easier for you to hang out in those moments of the void, the in between creation ending and something new beginning.
I would imagine, yes, definitely. Yeah, I was told a few times that I work very slowly. A lot of people who are creating something, they have that anxiety to let it out. I actually love the process. I love the process of creating. I like to nurse it, to nourish, to make sure it's not about putting a lot of things out there.
Right.
For me, it's about authentic work and making sure it's reflecting the place from which it was inspired, right?
Yes.
There's like this, and it's like, well, this is ready. We should just, like I said, no, it's not. So I have this, as Mary at USM, my teacher at USM used to say, I'm not a perfectionist. I just really fond of impeccability.
I'm hearing even more than that, though, that it's not about,
It's not about quantity for me. That's why I'm a singles artist.
It's like paying attention to the vibration of what you're putting out and the need to keep it connected with the source of that.
Yeah, and to have the integrity, to the refinement, to tune in over and over again and make sure, to me, that's very important. So it's definitely not about numbers for me. It's about the quality of what I do, and is it reflecting the source from where it was inspired, which for me is always
Mhm.
blind directive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's, I love
Mhm.
to hear you say that because that's everything to me. Yeah, it really is. And and so that often does mean that you're not creating or producing tons and tons of things, and it looks like whatever it looks like, but what it is that um, you use the word refinement.
Yeah, refining and polishing that jewel.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, the seed is like a jewel that drops in, and then you got to cultivate, polish, refine, and
Yeah.
reflect, through your co-creation with spirit. That's your.
That is the co-creation experience because it's knowing or it's recognizing that creation, an idea or a project has a life of its own, and we have to stay attuned to what that life is. And so it's a constant kind of movement. And your videos are very much around movement as well as sound.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the video is I find it so, and because I do one at a time, I find it such a beautiful marriage of sound and light because the
Mhm.
video light and it adds to the sound and it makes this beautiful art, form. And the two of them together hopefully can transport, somebody into that realm that I was, feeling while I was co-creating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, can we talk a little bit about One Earth? That's been your latest piece, and when did that come out?
That came out on Earth Day
This year.
this year, 22nd of April. Yeah.
Okay. So, you say we're the ones we've been waiting for, the ones to co-create a new Earth, and in that, I'm hearing a call that you're putting out,
Mhm.
and I'm interested to have you speak to that and how we're to answer that call.
I was invited to write this song, and it was a bit of an intimidating thing because I was invited to this to meet this a legendary human being, humanitarian agent, um, Ken Cragen, and a project that he was involved in called it's a nonprofit organization called Hands Around the World, or it's a climate change organization.
Mhm.
It's probably semi for profit, nonprofit, and to raise funds to help clean up the planet in a sense. And I had several meetings with them, and I was just willing to become a liaison and bring more people because they were taking it off the ground. I think they launched it in 2019. And then when COVID hit and lockdown came in March of 2020, it all simmered down. And I met them like in the summer of 2020. After a few meetings on Zoom, the CEO asked me, Kaliyani, would you write a song for our, you know, and, Ken Cragen was the guy who created, Hands Across America. And I wasn't even in the US at that time, but USA for Africa with, Michael Jackson and those legendary, extraordinary people and singers with We Are the World. And they wanted a song like that. And I said, listen, did you ever hear my music? I don't even write. Said, yeah, but this is Neil. He's like, I'm very intuitive. I think and they had songs created for their projects, and there's a
Mhm.
beautiful website. Um, um, I think it's hands.org, hands.world.org.
Mhm.
Um, and it's beautiful. There's interviews, but they were not, especially Neil, he was not very happy with the songs. And I said, well, after a while, I said, no pressure, right? He kept saying, "Are you good?" So I had to kind of get out of the way and allow myself, because the cause was so beautiful, and the earth is Gaia, And I said, this is not my signature, but hey, why not try something different and and I open myself to it, and I garden a lot, and I swim. And so while gardening and swimming, I allowed the lyrics to download with the melody. And this is how One Earth came. And that in that process, I've always been conscious, and I've always donated to um climate change organizations and environmental, I'd say, organizations. But I did a deep dive in knowing what's happening now. And what I realized is that we are creating tremendous change, and we don't know it because we have filtered news coming through, regular media channels. And when you do your own separate search, you will find what extraordinary things have been done. And I like to mention a couple of them. One tree planted has, I think, 100 million. They just trees planted recently. And it's something that came from somebody like you and I, who just woke up one day and said, I want to plant trees. And now it's a multi-million-dollar organization, and it's completely nonprofit, and it's just planting trees all around the world. It gives me chills. And then, Boy and Slat, this 16-year-old, Dutch boy who was swimming in Greece, and he saw all these trash bags floating, more plastic than anything. And he said, why can't we clean this up? And he went back to school. He went to high school, and he did a whole project about that. He left high school and created this huge organization. It's called Ocean Cleanup. It's miraculous what he's doing. He has boats at the bottom of rivers all around the world, the highest polluting rivers in the world, which bring all the garbage down from these villages everywhere in the world and cities where, and all this trash is floating into the ocean. He captures it and he collects it. And he's even the garbage patch that everybody talks about in the middle of the Pacific. He's creating miracles. Okay. So we are the ones we've been waiting for. Don't go to TV news to find out the good story. Go find it yourself. We need to create more channels of information. I think we are our heroes. We don't need to wait for it to come from above, right?
Exactly. Yes.
You can just wake up one day and say, I'm really done with this. And what can I do to help? It matters a lot. And the power of one, like one thing you choose to not do anymore or to start doing, to be it not use plastic straws, don't use plastic utensils, don't use plastic bags, don't use it matters a lot. The consumer dictates what products on the shelf. So if you love this almond milk and it comes in a glass jar, great. But if it doesn't, try to find one that does, whatever you don't buy, they won't put out anymore. If you want glass, they were gonna put it on glass, period. So it's our power, right?
Yeah. I have a dear friend who is doing a master's program right now in the UK. And she's had very successful careers. And she's doing this, and her focus is on the role of consciousness in climate change. And, and not only what can we do, but how elevating our consciousness, changing our frequency. And I want to talk with you about frequency and vibration, but how changing that impacts what happens in the world, impacts what happens in how we address climate change.
Absolutely.
And I'm hearing something very similar in what you're speaking to.
Yeah, that is awareness. Awareness is consciousness changing, enhancing consciousness just by becoming viscerally tuned in to the depth of healing you have the potential to do. And sometimes education is important.
Yeah.
You need to understand the impact of what you do, and that's why sometimes these videos that show us the numbers is good, because one person doing this multiplies like geometrically, and you end up finding out that this one choice you made has created a ripple effect so big that you're in awe. Yes. But until you understand that, because we don't have a way to measure the consequences of our choices impact negatively as well. Becoming aware is enhancing consciousness, because it's not just thinking about it, it's embodying that knowledge, that understanding. And when you embody that understanding, it's part of you. It's no longer a thought, it's no longer an idea, it's who you are.
Yeah. And then that's what moves us to take action in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And is that been part of what you did One Earth about? Or, why did you do it? Yes, you were asked, but some part of you must have felt some responsiveness, to want to do that.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, the calling and the magnitude of the project, the potential it had to create change was extraordinary. Just compare that to USA for Africa is a nonprofit that is still raises, because Ken was talking to us, said, I still collect, we still collect as a member of the board, hundreds of thousands a year, even though it's such an old song, just in downloads. And we still send it to Africa, and we send it, we use it in the United States as well for, probably Black Lives Matter. It was focused on African, helping the African countries, and, poverty and education for them to live a better life, famine and all of that. But he said we have extended it to the African Americans here too, and so the impact that has had, the millions of dollars it has made over decades, and to create something similar now geared towards environmental change, consciousness raising about preservation of this beautiful planet. And the connection of my work to that is that Gaia, as the spiritual community is versed to call, is a goddess, right? It's a feminine entity. As they say, the sun is male and the earth is female, which for me, it's silly. Everything is the cosmic mother is also the sun, and we've had many sun goddesses, which is something fun I like to explore. But the current thought form. So, Gaia is the embodiment of the feminine, in the sense that it's nourishing us, right? The women give birth. Gaia gives birth to plants, trees, animals. It's a nest for life. So it's constantly giving and nourishing, and it's growing trees and fruits and flowers. And it's a whole, a furnace that's generating life upon life upon life. So in that sense, it is like femininity in itself, right? We give life, we nurse life. And so in that sense, I feel like I am still within that same unique perspective of being midwifing the sacred feminine. Gaia is a sacred feminine embodiment, in a sense, on our side.
Yeah. Did you ever do that documentary?
No, I have not, because the music took a life of its own. It got placed in films. And, the universe took me into this journey that was completely different. It is in the back burner, and I think maybe they will come through, but the universe is telling me to do more music for now. And yeah.
So what is next?
that question.
What's emerging, Kaliyani? Kaliyani?
Yeah, I feel like I never plan because, as they say, we
No,
plan.
I don't mean planning, but what feels like is emerging?
Well, I'm feeling called to really take time off, travel. I want to do a bit of a pilgrimage that I've been calling. I've done a little bit, but I want to do a more intense one. And during this pilgrimage, focus on finishing, organizing. There's a lot that's been written, but it's out of order.
Mm-hmm.
Book I want to write about this journey, this beautiful journey that gave birth to all this creation. And I also think doing more music a little more expediently, because I do have a tendency to kind of oh, this is half done, well, I'm not feeling called yet, oh,
Mm-hmm.
spirit will tell me. But put a little more intention on it. Like, okay, I have a few tracks I have almost ready, and all I have to do is touch it up and create the video and release, and maybe do one a year instead of every 3 or 4 years,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Set an intention to do it more often. And then that's the book, and more music is what's in the flow.
Okay, okay. And in coming towards the end of our time together, is there something that you could offer to our listeners, our viewers, that is like here's something you might consider doing now? And I don't mean about climate change. I'm not putting any parameters around that, but some kind of guidance that you feel called to offer.
I feel like one of the most important things in this process for me, starting to do music so late in my life and doing something I never thought I'd be doing,
Mm-hmm.
has to do with believing that your dreams and what you're bringing forth is important, and to give voice to it, and to not allow previous parameters and concepts about, like, I was not musically trained, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I resisted for quite a while. I said, no, no, no. People found out I had done the was in vacation and said, can you play for me? And they would cry in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And they would grab my arms, and their eyes were tearing up. And they said, you can't keep this to yourself. You have to release it. And I said, but I am not a singer. I can't do this now. I'm in my 40s. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And and the thing is, the epiphany came and said, when I allow myself to do this, I'll give permission for somebody else to do the same. Because the fact that you're not trained, follow your passion. My message is follow your passion, no matter how outside of the parameters it may seem. Like, oh, you have to be trained. I come from a family, a lot of people are like, oh, I come from a family of sitar players, my grandfather and my grandmother. Right? It's like, who cares?
Right.
Are you burning inside with love for something? Are you you're 80? I don't care. Go ahead and do it, because it does not matter what somebody did before, what the parameters of the world are. I have, Kaliyani is about breaking through limiting concepts of reality.
Mm-hmm.
But I had, and it's on my website, just like your quote you love that we share,
Mm-hmm.
after music silence is, and it's one of the things I believe. Break through limiting concepts of reality is the new era. It's what we're here to do, to crack open the new codes of a new
Mm-hmm.
earth, of a new possibility that takes deprogramming. So let go of the program and believe that everything is new. Whatever you do now, if it's done with passion, especially if your dream has to do with something that is not serving you, but serving the whole in a way, is
Mm-hmm.
giving something, the universe will step in and roll the red carpet like it did for me, because it wasn't about me. I was doing this out of love for the consciousness of resacralizing the feminine and the desecration around the feminine and the objectification of the feminine, and the passion I had to bring the sacred of the feminine back into our human consciousness. It wasn't about me. It was about the collective feminine. It's about the collective world. It's about creating balance, right? Because
well, is it balance? Because balance sounds static, or is it resonance and flow?
well, I always think of the columns of a temple, right? If you have the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, and I always feel like there was a bit of the Tower of Pisa, because for 6,000 religious institutions were focused only on a divine masculine archetype. It is Muhammad, Jesus, and on and so forth, and Moses and blah, right? Abraham, and all these religious institutions are just, and I feel like, here's the sacred feminine, the tower is going to fall. And I feel like it is falling. It was falling.
Yeah.
I think we already entered. And I feel like it was after 2012, the cycle of the Mayan calendar ended. And I do feel a lot of people are expecting fifth dimensional jump, or the world's going to end. No, the world as we knew it, codes changed, and the feminine has stepped forth since then. I call 2013 year one of the transformation, or the phoenix rising within us, to delete those things that don't serve us and come into unity. But we need to come into unity as equals, right? So that column needs to be built up. Hold the structure strongly together, right?
So we can really come into truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Integration of the polarities, right? Yeah.
Well, that's a lot to leave us with. Thank you. How can people find you?
Well, I am at Kaliyani.com. As long as, the spelling is right, you find me there, Kaliyani.com.
That'll be in the show notes.
And also social media. I have a big group, on Facebook, and I have a music page on Facebook as well, a fan page. There's a nice crowd there. And then I'm not on Instagram as much, but I am every time I do a launch. There's a lot of things that I post, and in my Facebook profile, I do more personal things. So if you get to know me on a day-to-day basis, I'm on the beach, I'm playing frescoball or something.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's been a delight to have you on. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Laurie. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank our listeners and our viewers for you being with us today here at Wisdom Talk Radio. And join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. You can find us on your favorite place to listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please do leave us a review, subscribe, because when you leave a review, that lets more people know how to access this kind of wisdom and transform the world. And that's what we're about. And for more about how you can thrive with your own personal quantum connection, take the Quantum Connection quiz now. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.